Hello, I'm Darielle Snipes with the CMSD News Bureau, and you're watching another edition of Talk to the CEO. Well, the new school year is underway. It is the third school year affected by a pandemic, but this school year, students are back in the buildings for 5 days a week in-person learning. Joining me now to talk about what students and families can expect this school year is Superintendent and CEO of the district, Eric Gordon. Well, welcome, Eric.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So it's the beginning of school. This is the first time in 17 months that all the students will be in the buildings for 5 days a week in-person learning. I mean, this has been what we've been looking for since the beginning of this pandemic. How have the first couple of days of school been going?
Oh, it's been great. I've gotten to visit a number of schools, watching the kids come back. Super excited to see their teachers, and teachers excited to see their kids. Moving in, everybody's wearing their masks as we need them to, maintaining the appropriate social distancing and everything. It's been off to a great start.
And so I know that the heat has been somewhat of an issue with closing schools early, closing schools because of the heat. Just tell me, how do you decide to close schools when there's weather like this?
Yeah, it's been one of the hottest and humidest Augusts we've had in a long time. We have a heat index chart that is very, very much like what you'd think of as wind chill. And we monitor both the indoor temperature and the humidity to determine when a building is uncomfortable compared to when it's not safe. These buildings now have hit 90 plus degrees. We can't get them cooled off in the morning, even when we bring people in at like 4 in the morning to flush cooler air in. I mean, we're not cooling off. And so we did an early dismissal on Tuesday, which was the second day of school, just to get out of the hottest part of the day. Wednesday, the buildings just didn't cool enough to even open. We're going to continue to monitor through the rest of this week, but it looks like good weather's coming for next week to get everybody back in and get that rhythm of school back in session.
For sure. And so, as you've always said, the pandemic isn't over, but the shutdown is, and we still have to practice safety protocols because of COVID and to reduce the spread. What is the district doing this time around to make sure that all those safety protocols are in place?
Yeah, it's really important that we take every precaution because the pandemic hasn't ended. So first of all, we have a full mask policy. So that's whether you're a student or adult, including visitors. Doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. Everybody wears a mask. I wear my mask. Students wear theirs, teachers too. That's really critical. Number one is that we stop the spread through masks. We still have our temperature check and health assessment as you come into our buildings. We have our care clinics. If you start demonstrating flu-like symptoms, we can isolate quickly, have our health professionals. We have a health professional in every building, assess whether you might have COVID-like symptoms. We have PPE throughout the building, so hand sanitizers, wipes in every single classroom. We have frequent hand washing stations. We still have social distancing in hallways and in classrooms where possible. So all of the traditional safety precautions that we've learned over the last 17 months. In addition, we are running vaccination clinics. We had 6 this week, and we'll continue to run those. We're incentivizing with sports tickets and bicycles. We really need our 12 to 18-year-olds and their families to get vaccinated. And while we're doing that, we're also doing random voluntary swab testing. And it's not the one that goes up in the back of your head. It's just a Q-tip in the nose. It'll happen at the beginning of the school day, again, voluntary. It'll be back from the lab by the end of that day, and it helps us to get in front of if we do have cases. Finally, we still have our COVID hotline. It's run by our school nurses who are trained by the health department. So if a family does have an identified case of COVID, they can do the contact tracing. Where was that child? Were they in primary contact without a mask for a certain amount of time? Do we have to quarantine? So we can help families through that as well. So in CMSD, we're really taking the most cautious route so that we can be back 5 days, full day, like we started this year.
Of course, now some families, even with all of that safety protocol, they're still not comfortable sending their children back into school for whatever reason. And the district is still offering, again this year, a remote option. Can you just talk about what that entails?
Yeah, so the state of Ohio offered a new option in the budget bill that passed in July for school districts to open a fully remote school. So different than last year, you can't be co-enrolled. You can't hold your seat in one school while you stay remote. That's not allowed this year under law, but you can transfer into the CMSD remote school. We have about 800 students that have pre-K to 12. You will be taught by CMSD teachers. You will have a full schedule. You'll know your class times, but you'll interact remotely like we learned to do last year. We also have our virtual academy, and virtual academy is much more self-paced. So you have a teacher mentor that helps you move through your content, but the content's much more individualized. And that's for a student that really does well in an independent setting. So trying to have an option for everybody, but our goal obviously is in person, in school, so that we can reconnect and be together. The last thing I'll say is that based on the new technologies we have, we also now have blended learning options. And so as school starts this year, every classroom will also have a Schoology classroom so that a child can stay connected to their classroom from home. If they have to quarantine, they don't have to miss being engaged with their classroom. You know, if they want to work kind of anytime, anywhere, it's right there. So we're really excited to capitalize on that investment through the new technologies as well.
Yes, and speaking of technology, the district is offering, again, one-to-one technology for all our students. I mean, this is very important that we keep this so that our students can have the CMSD experience.
Yeah, so we're really excited that we're going to make the full transition to a 4-year technology cycle. Our youngest children will have iPads. Then as they grow older, they graduate up to Chromebooks in the middle school grades. And then as they get to high school, they get an individualized laptop. And when they leave high school as a senior year, they'll keep that laptop and take it with them. We're also continuing to partner to make sure our families have free internet, high-speed internet. We have a great partnership with Digital C to get that internet hardwired into families' homes. We just announced another big partnership with Spectrum Charter Cable to get another 5,300 families connected. If families can't get either of those two things, we'll continue to use hotspots in the meantime. And we're also working with both PCs for People and also with a federal program to get extra devices that parents and families can keep as well. So really trying to keep everybody connected on this 4-year cycle so that everybody is one-to-one technology, that we carry our device and use it. And we'll be moving out of the business of having desktops sitting all over the place that can only be used when you're there. So again, trying to get to this anytime, anywhere learning.
Perfect. And so, this year the district is promoting the CMSD experience and telling families that they'll get more, which you kind of just talked about. But what other things can families expect with this Get More experience?
Well, there's a lot that you're going to get this year. So first of all, we have restored our 1-mile transportation. Post-COVID, we had to go to 2 miles during the shutdown, but we're back to 1 mile. And we're introducing activity shuttle buses for middle schools so that students can get extra time at school for extracurricular activities. We're expanding art, music, physical education so students can learn to, they can sing, they can learn an instrument, they can play in an orchestra, they can throw a pot or make art, they can join a fitness club. Those will be with their 0 or 9th period in the pre-K-8 schools so that they have an extended day with more activity. We're investing in the Senate League, both in the athletic programs themselves, but we've launched an aggressive esports program. We're going to be offering classes for students to train as officials and then be paid to be officials. Oh, nice. We're also having streaming clubs so that the students can actually stream their events from their schools. So really excited about that. We are introducing community college and career hubs in our high schools, so cyber cafes that are open before and after school so that students can sign up for activities or look at job postings or learn about a career or fill out their FAFSA, their Say Yes application. So just really after a much more inclusive experience. We've also introduced a new, more inclusive dress expectation, got rid of the rigid uniform and dress code to a more inclusive set of clothing expectations, which again, students modeled for us in hybrid and summer, where everybody was dressed appropriately without having an enforced dress code. So this year is about getting more. We want to come out of the pandemic stronger than we went in.
Most definitely. I know a lot of kids are excited about not having the dress code anymore. But you've also talked about post-pandemic learning. And so what does that look like for the district?
Well, what it looks like is summer learning experience. We really want our kids to be finishing that unfinished learning. So there are those lessons that you have to learn, but even those can be done in a more self-paced mastery kind of way, like you saw us do in summer. We want students really enriching in a much more meaningful problem or project-based experience where they work on a really complex task and really struggle to figure that task out and then demonstrate what they've learned. And we really want students to be re-engaged, social emotionally, make friends, connect with old friends, be in those out-of-school time activities, those extracurriculars, those athletics. So we're really focusing on 4 things to make that happen. One is mastery learning, so being much more personalized and less about rigid time structures, but helping kids get to the content that they need, starting with where they are instead of starting from where they weren't. The second is a anytime, anywhere learning. I've mentioned a few times, but that's not only the technologies, but that's also where learning occurs. So think about all of the places we have schools: inside of a hospital, inside of a museum, inside of CSU, in a foundry, in the LGBTQ community center. So learning can happen anywhere, and that includes things like apprenticeships and internships and learn-to-earns. So that's the second group. The third is whole human learning. So this is social, emotional, cultural, and physical wellness. It's the expansion of our health professionals in every building. It's our commitment to say yes to education, which is in almost every CMSD building now, to provide those basic needs: legal services, integrated health services, more out-of-school time activities. And so really making sure that we care for the whole learner. And then the fourth is a really customized, personalized, career-centered pathway where students explore from 6th through 12th grade who they are and who they want to be. And we're launching a new app this year where students will actually have an active planning tool where they can learn about themselves as they have these experiences and log, and it will adjust for them to start to find experiences that may or may not be for them. So for example, if a student takes an assessment that says they're pretty introverted, it will immediately tell them you probably don't want to be in sales. And it'll point them instead to other things that they can experience. And the goal is that when they leave high school, they will have a point of view about what they might want to do for a family-sustaining wage, and that will make them happy and fulfilled. And so really excited about those 4 elements this year.
Yeah, and definitely be ahead of the game so they'll know what they want when they graduate and not just start exploring once they graduate. That's amazing.
Well, and the goal obviously is not, I don't know if you knew, but I didn't know I would be doing this when I graduated high school, but I knew the kind of things I wanted to do. And so we want students to have learned through the course of middle and high school how to be actively curious about their life, so that they can continue to adjust to the circumstances that they'll face in a world we can't even yet predict, as opposed to, we call it the growth mindset in our portrait of profile of a graduate, as opposed to thinking, well, I'm supposed to know and this is it and the world will be this way forever. We know the world's changing quickly. We want our students to be really nimble and ready for it.
For sure. And so, September is Attendance Awareness Month.
Sure is.
And so how has attendance been not post-pandemic, but since we've been in the pandemic and kids have been back to school, and some of the efforts that the school district is making to make sure that kids do attend school?
Well, first, I think the pandemic gave us a chance to rethink what attendance actually is. So what does it mean to be present? Right? What does it mean to stay in the game, using our partnership with the Cleveland Browns Foundation? So it may not mean being in the classroom in a regular schedule every single day. It may be that you're at school some days, you're in an apprenticeship some days, you're working blended learning some days, you're remote some days, but all of those could be attendance if we define what it means to be present in your learning. So it's really challenging us to think about that notion, particularly for high school students who figured out that I can go work during the day and do my high school work at another time, as just one example. We've started with summer learning experience of really helping families and students re-engage, reconnect with school, reconnect with learning in a real-life, in-person way after having been disconnected from the real live experiences for so long. We then transitioned into our enrollment, getting kids and families back enrolled with our CMSD Get More, the CMSD Experience Get More. That's the phase we're in right now for August. We had a partnership with the Cleveland Teachers Union where the union members called thousands of homes to check in on families, make sure they were registered, make sure their questions were answered, went door knocking if the families didn't answer the phone, and tried to find those families. And I even found, okay, nobody actually lives here, or this one's even a vacant lot, which sometimes happens for us. So that was a great partnership as well. And then as we move into September, it's about being, in your learning every single day. And again, that can look multiple ways, but we have to know you're actively present in your learning, and that's what we're going to call attendance this year.
Perfect. Seems to be a great start to the school year. But what do you want to say to families and students as we do enter the 3rd school year in a pandemic? But we're not where we were, but we're not where we want to be.
Oh, I would say a few things. First of all, the pandemic isn't over, as you just said. The shutdown is. So this is going to be a year of learning to live in the pandemic as opposed to stop living in the pandemic. And everything we do as a school community should be surrounding that notion, which means safety first. It means wearing those masks. It means getting immunized. We now have Pfizer as an approved vaccine for 12 and older. I know there's a lot of fear about it. I know there's also fear of the vaccine flu. You do sometimes get that one-day flu, but that's better than getting COVID. And it is now hitting children, and so safety first. The second is space and grace. We're going to have to continue to learn to adjust, and this community has been so gracious over the last 17 months while we adjust to everything that has changed in our world. But the third is optimism and hope about coming out of this stronger and better, really creating a much better experience for our students, the Get More experience that we're really working to build. And then finally, thinking about the America Rescue Plan is a 3-year plan. So we should not pressure our kids or expect our kids to recover an 18-month disruption in a summer or even in a year, but we should look at what is the 3-year experience we create to close those gaps of unfinished learning time, to re-engage and re-enrich. And if we work really aggressively from where we are, we can actually come out of this much stronger at the end of the day.
For sure. Well, here is to a great school year. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's great to see you.